There never was a Palestinian people, nation, language, culture, religion, or economy. The claims of descent from a Palestinian people who supposedly lived for thousands of years in a land called Palestine is a deliberate lie. That land was called Canaan, inhabited by Canaanites, whom God destroyed because of their wickedness. What had been Canaan became the land of Israel. Yet a revised history which hides the truth is promoted in the best of encyclopedias and reference volumes, even Christian publications, including the New King James Bible. Those who today call themselves Palestinians are Arabs by birth, language, Islamic religion, and culture. The name Palestine comes from the Philistines, ancient Israel's chief enemies. In A.D. 130, the Romans rebuilt Jerusalem as a pagan city with a temple to Jupiter where the Jewish temple had stood. Provoked to rebellion, about 500,000 Jews were killed and thousands sold into slavery. The Romans angrily renamed the land of Israel Syria Palestina, and that's where the name comes from. From that time, Jews living there became known as Palestinians. During World War II, the British Army had a Palestinian brigade made up entirely of Jewish volunteers. The Palestinian Symphony Orchestra was all Jewish, and the Palestine Post was a Jewish newspaper. For 50 years, the world has faced the problem of hundreds of thousands of so-called Palestinian refugees from the 1948 War of Independence. Typical of its lies, world media accuses the Jews of ruthlessly dispossessing the native population. In 1948, Arabs who had fled from Israel began to claim that they were the true Palestinians and that Israel had always belonged to them. World media eagerly promotes that lie. The truth is that in 1948, Arabs owned a mere 3% of so-called Palestine. Hundreds of thousands of Jews were murdered in Arab lands. Israel's rebirth provided a welcome refuge to which they fled. Israel has absorbed millions of immigrants, nearly 1 million from Russia. More than 1 million Palestinians in refugee camps came under Israeli control in the 1967 Six-Day War. Israel offers them state land, electricity, sanitation, streets, and schools, and has built 9 residential projects housing 10,000 families. Arab nations, incredibly, oppose Israel's help for the refugees.